Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today, AKTX just had their annual general meeting, and I am seeing a key vote that shows a major shift. Quick note, this is not financial advice, just my take on public filings for educational purposes. Investors voted out a director, and it looks like the company is pushing for more share issuances, which can dilute your ownership. Alright, let's dive into what happened at Akari Therapeutics, PLC's annual general meeting on the 30th of June 2026. These meetings are where shareholders get to vote on important company matters, and this one had some significant outcomes. First up, they presented the board's report and the financial accounts for the year ending the 31st of December 2025. This is pretty standard stuff, where the company lays out its performance and the auditors weigh in. The vast majority of votes were in favor of receiving these reports, with over 59 billion shares voting yes. This is a common starting point to any shareholder meeting agenda. Then, shareholders voted on the Board of Directors' remuneration report, which is essentially a look at how executives are paid, but on an advisory basis. This means the vote is non-binding here. The 4 votes were about 41 billion, with a significant chunk of over 9 billion shares voting against or abstaining. This shows some discontent from shareholders regarding executive compensation. Now, the really interesting part begins with the director elections. Shareholders vote to re-elect board members for Hoyoung. There were nearly 32 billion votes in favour and about 5.5 billion against. This passed, but with a notable number of objections. However, when it came to James Neal, the story is quite different. He received only about 13 billion votes in favour, while a staggering 29 billion shares voted against his re-election. This means James Neal was not re-elected. This is a strong signal from shareholders that they want a change in leadership, or at least a different direction for this particular director. And the filing confirms this directly. James Neal was not re-elected. He actually served on the audit committee and chaired the compensation committee following his departure. The board appointed Dr. Ray Prudo to the audit committee, and Robert Bazemore took over as chair of the compensation committee. So, while Neal is out, the board is making adjustments to fill those roles. Another standard vote was to ratify the appointment of BDO USA, PC, as the independent registered public accounting firm for 2026. This passed overwhelmingly with over 59 billion for votes. This is crucial for ensuring the company's financial statements are independently audited. Now let's look at the share issuance proposals. These are critically important because they directly impact how many shares of the company exist, and therefore how much ownership each existing share represents. First, there is a proposal to approve the issuance of ordinary shares under the company's ALOC purchase agreement. This also passed, but again, with a significant number of against votes, over 4.1 billion. This indicates shareholders are concerned about potential dilution. Then there is this very detailed proposal to approve the issuance of various warrants series H, I, and J, which allow for the purchase of a substantial number of American depository shares. This includes warrants for almost 4.5 million ADSs plus additional ones for a placement agent. Again, this passed, but with over 4.2 billion against votes. Shareholder approval for issuing more shares, or the right to acquire shares, is often required by stock exchanges like the Nasdaq, especially when it becomes significant or could lead to a change of control. Following that, they sought approval for issuing shares in a private placement that could result in a change of control for the company. This passed as well, but with roughly 4.1 billion against votes. This suggests that while the majority approved, a significant minority is wary of these potential share issuances and their dilutive effects. Moving on to broader authorities, there was a proposal to give directors the general authority to allot shares. This is a common measure in UK-based companies, allowing the board flexibility to issue shares for various purposes over a period of 5 years. This passed by a large margin with over 53 billion for votes. Coupled with that is a special resolution to empower directors to allot equity securities for cash, essentially bypassing preemption rights for a period of 5 years. This means they can issue shares for cash without first offering them to existing shareholders. This also passed with significant support, over 53 billion for votes. These last 2 resolutions are critical. They grant the company broad powers to issue new shares, which can be used for fundraising, acquisitions, or employee stock options. However, if these shares are issued without a compelling strategic reason or at unfavorable terms, it can significantly dilute the ownership stake of existing shareholders. The significant against votes on the specific share issuance proposals highlight this concern among a portion of the investor base. What is my take? The board got approval for broad powers to issue shares, which is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it provides financial flexibility. On the other, the substantial against votes on specific share issuance proposals signal that shareholders are watching closely and are wary of dilution. The removal of James Neal is a clear message from investors that they are unhappy with certain aspects of the board's decisions or direction. My biggest concern is how these broad share issuance authorities will be used, and whether they will ultimately benefit existing shareholders or just dilute them further. I will be watching for any new financing or acquisition announcements that utilize these powers. Oh, and the research tools I actually use are linked in the description. They help keep this channel going. That is my take. Stay decoded. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, subscribe, and join us on Discord.